to Royce. Daniel Malen, wonderful.
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham, absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American, just like that.
Best of clearances. Oh, what a volley! Matt Hummels.
Grant in for Haaland, like he's never been away. The man in front of goal who is simply deadly.
Sounds real good coming off a Haaland hat trick. Unfortunately, it wasn't for Dortmund. Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake. Carver is joined with me as always. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's good to be back. I had a nice, relaxing weekend and everything, so I'm happy to be here with you. How are you doing?
Doing all right. So it's been a little more than a week since Carver recorded. He was out of the country, so let's all blame Carver.
Yeah.
And then I've actually had COVID the last week, so it has been great. I'm feeling a lot better now. Basically feel like I have a cold, but it's not feeling good the first few days. But so we put a little delay on the episode. Carver was getting back and a little jet lag. So and by the time Carver was ready to record, I was in the thick of it, not feeling good at all. But hey, we're back and here to recap. Of course, we're recording not immediately, but the day after the Hertha Berlin game, which looked a little better than Werder Bremen. But Carver was in. If you missed last week's episode, Carver was in Dortmund for the game versus Werder Bremen, which, I mean, I want to hear about your game day experience. Since we haven't recapped that game together, Carver and I haven't really talked about it. We basically stopped texting after the game because I'm like, Carver's day has kind of been ruined, and I don't want to I don't want to make him think about it any more than he had to. But we're going to recap that game, and primarily I just want to hear about Carver's game day experience. And then we are going to talk about Werder Bremen. We did get the Champions League draw, so just a heads up, here in a couple days, later on in the week, we are going to do a game to go over the Champions League draw, our matches, who we're playing, and our group and everything. So that is to come shortly. But I mean, anything else, Carver? Do you want to start off? Like, how was your trip back? How was Germany, France?
So the trip back was exhausting. I think we were traveling for 2 hours straight, I want to say. Had like an 11-hour flight from Germany to Dallas, and then there was like a 6-hour overlay in Dallas, and then a flight from there to St. Louis. But the trip itself was awesome. And Germany and Dortmund, of course, was incredible. This is the second time I've been. I went a few years back, actually within like 2 weeks of the pandemic. So we were playing Frankfurt at home, and it was 4-0. And I think it was Holland's second home game with us, if I'm not wrong. So that was my first time. And going this time was just as an amazing experience. Just a little bit more of a sour taste in my mouth leaving this one, because you're right. I didn't want to think about it was really hard. I couldn't believe my eyes, but at the same time I could, of course, because this is Dortmund, but not while I'm there, guys. Yeah. Not while I'm I flew with a few thousand miles for this.
Yeah. Also, if you missed anything from our socials, or if you missed last week's episode, Carver surprised me on the podcast while we were recording that which we started recording literally like 15 minutes after he checked in his hotel. And he's like, dude, I got some news for you. You're not going to believe this. Staying in the same hotel as Werder Bremen. Obviously, that didn't do anyone favors except Werder Bremen.
It did do us favors. Oliver Burke listens to the podcast, confirmed, because I poked fun at him last episode, and then he goes on to score the winner. So, Oliver, appreciate you listening to the show. How about you go ahead and retire, though?
He's like, that a-hole is recording a Dortmund podcast across the hall. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show him. I do want to hear about specifics like game day experience, hotel. You did not have breakfast with Werder Bremen, which we were kind of hoping for. But game day experience, leaving the hotel, going to the stadium, walking around.
It was awesome. I came back the night before the game from dinner, and right into right next to the lobby, they were in some conference room watching the Gladbach game at the time. I forget who Gladbach was playing that night. So the Werder Bremen team was watching that game, and I didn't see him in the morning, but the bus was still there. So I guess they were on a walk or something, or could have just been in their rooms. I'm not sure. But Yeah, the walk to the stadium is fun. It's only like 15 minutes from the hotel. So, I mean, you're hearing chants right out the gate. Like the second you leave the lobby of the hotel, you're already hearing people in different areas of the town chanting, and, you know, families getting together and everything. So, an awesome sight to see. And the stadium's incredible, obviously. It's beautiful. And just, my God, the crowd. And Madeline was like, so when is the game? And I was like, not for another 2.5 hours. And the entire street was just filled to the brim with people. And I was like, I know, it's nuts. Just wait till you get inside. And she was taken away, just blown away with the noise. And she's like, I knew it was gonna be loud, but I didn't know it was gonna be this loud. And
yeah,
it's breathtaking, really. I mean, years of expectations built up in my head, and even then it's just an electric atmosphere in there, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, do you want to get into the game then and the lineup? Any thoughts, like overall?
Sadly,
what?
Yeah. No, we have to get into it, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah,
That's
sadly,
where
I
all
have
the
to
good
get
news
into
from that game ends there.
I mean, thoughts going into the game, obviously your thoughts were probably a lot different being there, probably way more hyped. But I was obviously optimistic going into this game, it being Werder Bremen, which they talked about this a lot on the commentary. It's like, and I think maybe it was Terzic's words who said beforehand, like, Werder Bremen's not a typical promoted team. Like they're established, historic. They've been around a long time. Like they're a big club. So it's not like you're playing insert X who just got promoted.
Yeah. I mean, I know they're, newly promoted side. And I know I was even optimistic as well talking to you last week, and I think I called like a 3 or 4-0 of a clean sheet. But I was saying that I'm not saying we should underestimate them though by any means. They're a team that can obviously perform and beat a lot of great teams on their day. It's just a matter of how are we going to approach the game. Are we going to go to play to win, or are we going to sit back and let the game come to us? And I mean, that's pretty much exactly what happened. Of course, you're missing a few players. I mean, it really sucked to see Adeyemi not in this, even in the squad in general, after the club basically said he was good to go a few days before. And then, of course, Ozchen too. I mean, I get not starting, I guess, because you want to be cautious, but the man didn't even see the field. And just look at his debut from just yesterday. I rest my case.
Yeah. We did see, I know we talked about maybe Wolf coming in and bynoe-gittens, which was what I was calling for. So it was cool to see those changes. But yeah, seeing us not have Adeyemi or Malen, which I don't think we got clarification before the game, like where Malen was. But
I think he's still just got a knock right now or something like that, and he's going to be out for the next week or two in general again.
We know that now, crazy. But I feel like before this game, there wasn't any word. It was just like, nope, he's out. But seeing those guys out, not in the lineup at all, it's like, man, what felt like it felt like we had some depth, and now it feels like we don't. So although I was excited seeing bynoe-gittens start, just it felt like we didn't have depth, which was a little concerning. But so the lineup was Guerrero, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, Wolf, Dahoud, Bellingham, bynoe-gittens, Royce, Brandt, and Modeste up top. I was optimistic going into the game. Excited to see bynoe-gittens get just start and see what he could do right off the bat. And then, yeah, I don't know. It was quickly disappointed. Not by just bynoe-gittens, but by everybody.
Yeah. And it's not even just the result at the end that was disappointing. It was really the whole game. I mean, it was a deserved result. We weren't creative basically all 90 minutes. Our build-up and offense in general looked really disconnected. I mean, definitely with Modeste. It looks like we were playing with 10 men on the field. Completely imploded in the last 10 minutes of the game, from bad use of subs, that's on Terzic, to really bad game management as well as the game goes on. And that's also on Terzic. And I'm not trying to have like a huge go at him. Of course, I'm still backing him, and the team's going to need time to gel. It's what I've already mentioned the week previously, but it's just a major learning experience for Terzic. I mean, for the squad as a whole, though, too. I mean, how you're supposed to treat these kind of opponents and how you adapt when you realize, the shape that Werder Bremen took on. I mean, they were just pinning us in our own half. It looked like so much of the game, and they were so versatile in their attacks and just cut through us like butter too when we tried to press. They got through us so easily, and we're in our final third within maybe 3 or 4 passes each time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me, besides Modeste, which that was what I was seeing. How we work and play with Modeste was what I was one of the main things I was looking for in this game. I thought, or the Berlin game, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's like playing down a man. It's like we're not utilizing him at all. We're not passing the ball to him. We're not. It's like he's not even up there. But passing, that was the thing. We just did not pass at all. Like this whole game, like all we saw was Brandt and bynoe-gittens and Bellingham and everyone just like trying to run through and pass. I don't know if that's them being overly confident, trying to just be like, I can run past this guy because he's from Werder Bremen. I don't know what it was, but it just tried the whole game, just kept seeing our players attempt to run past and get the ball taken off of them. Like in the first half, we had 200 passes. Mm-hmm. In contrast, in the Hertha game, first half, we had 359 passes.
Yeah, but it's also not just a matter of having possession. It's just what you're doing with it too. And we looked like we maybe had half of an idea, but they just ran with that for all 90 minutes of give it to a wing back, try to chip it over their pressing player, and then get it to a winger, and then like I guess drive forward and hope for the best while they 1v4 or something like that. And you just kept forcing that same play over and over, and it's like it's just not going to work. And especially too, I mean, it's of course going to throw a huge damper in your team whenever the main playmaker in your squad, like Dahoud, is taken out. What was he in the 15th minute or something like that for his shoulder again? And then you're left with, of course, Bellingham, you know, depending on who's going to come in, is he going to be a little bit more of a defensive responsibility since he doesn't have someone next to him? And you would think Chan would be the guy to come in and do that. But wow, Chan was really poor that game. And I think Chan could have definitely been at least in the train of thought for Terzic to bring him on early in the game. But at the very least, after seeing Chan play for those 20 or 30 minutes in the first half, I say you get him out of there and you get Chan in to play for the second half, because there was just nothing that really Chan was doing correctly at all. I mean, aerial duels in general, his passing was really bad. And he just doesn't look like he's happy anymore, which is strange whenever a player like gets upset because they're not starting every game. And then whenever they get the opportunity to actually go and play, they play piss poor and they act like they don't care. It's like, you know, you got to earn your spot.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what kind of conversations went on between him and the coaching staff to see what changed, maybe, because it seemed like last season him coming on and doing that role, playing wherever. I mean, he was playing a lot more, and it's still really early, but maybe I don't know. Maybe there's the shift in him knowing up front, like, hey, you're probably not going to be one of my starters, but I could use you to be a utility man, come in here and there, and
it's weird that he calls himself like a defensive midfielder. That's where his preferred position is. But even before he started slotting in the majority of time in our defense, or our back line, excuse me, even whenever he was playing DM like 2 years ago, whenever he first came and it was like in the Champions League and stuff like that, I didn't think he looked that great in DM personally. I think he looks a lot better in a back three or just center backs against certain opponents. I mean, let's not forget, I know I was just shitting on him, but I think he can be a great utility player for that back line. I mean, he made the back four of Schultz, Chan, Pongracic, and Paslak get 2 clean sheets in a row. One of them was on the road. Yeah. I mean, I think he definitely has the ability to, organize certain defenses and be a utility player in that back line when we need it. Because especially if we're looking to get rid of a Kanji, we're going to have 3 center backs if you're really trying to get rid of Chan or not play him. And there's just, looking at our injury record, that's just not plausible.
Well, maybe that's where the frustration comes from, that we signed Chan and he feels that his spot, he doesn't have that spot anymore. Which he came in and he played that role, but he did it terribly. I honestly I forgot. I mean, I'm still a little foggy, hazy brain and whatever, but like I forgot that Dahoud to get injured and he went in. But yeah, it was not good. And then contrast that to last season when I would say I was more of a Chan fan and I was happy to have him stay this summer and us not sell him. But that's on the back of all his defensive performances, him playing in the back line, because that's what he did a lot of last season, especially towards the end, he was that utility on the back, playing a center back role or like a right back on the or 3-man center back on the right. So I think that's where me backing Chan is coming off of that. It's like him as a on the defensive line and not in a midfield position. But
yeah, so again, I think this game is overall a really big learning experience for the squad as a whole, but definitely for Terzic. I mean, learning how to manage those games better overall, but definitely in the last 10 to 15 minutes of a game. I mean, that's crucial whenever you have, I mean, the most dangerous league in football, quote unquote, 2-0 leads. And again, with the subs, I think Terzic is a lot smarter with the subs than Favre or Rosa. I mean, those two were horrendous with their substitution choices, but this one was just a little bit questionable for me. And I think Terzic made a lot of great decisions going into the Berlin game as a segue. Oh, but also real quick, I also wanted to mention, I forgot, the few positives I had from Bremen. One of them was, I shat on you not. Gio is back and fully healthy, and I thought he linked up play really well. And I would start him in the next game. And sure enough, just somehow he picks up another, and I'm not like necessarily going at him, but just like, what is going on? Like, there's no communication from the club whenever he wasn't in the squad. I don't get what's
it's
going
more. Yeah. Okay. For the Gio, and then I think we did get news. We did get news about Mullen, but what did Stefan put something out? Maybe it was just along those lines of like no communication from the club. But like, I know it's frustrating, and they're going to get a lot of hate if they put out a report that says, oh, Gio's out. Like, everyone's going to be up in arms and mad, but we're not necessarily mad at you. We're mad at the situation. And so I don't know if their thought is, let's not put anything out. Like, that's way more frustrating for us to see the lineup and see X player or Gio, I get not even X player, Gio or Mullen, no one's there. And like, to just tell us why. I would be way more satisfied. I'm still going to be upset if he's injured. I get that. But if you just set out the lineup with like no explanation, and I don't see Gio there or someone else, or like Mullen last week, what's going on? Like,
yeah, I don't know if he injured himself during training, which is usually communicated, or was it something that he picked up after on game day after the game? But because they could be like two different things, I guess. Because if he wasn't feeling well after the game, then why was he in the squad to begin with? And if he picked up something during training, well, then how did that happen? You know, is this something new, or is this the same thing that's been bothering for a while? So yeah, that was one of my positives, though, is just Gio looking good. And of course that gets ripped from us too. Kobel, he's been unbelievable every single game so far. I mean, all 4 games, he's been unbelievable, and he continuously bails us out. So that was probably the biggest positive now after Gio getting another knock. But is there any other thoughts you had on Bremen?
I was going to ask if you want to touch on the goals at all. We had I was just going to say, so into the first half, right before halftime, we saw Brandt kind of rocket outside the box. Mm-hmm. Although, I kid you not, I was typing up some notes as he's dribbling it and like taking a shot. I was already like about to type like, Brandt taking it on his own and having a shot rip. And luckily for him, it goes in. And I was like, but I didn't expect it. And I was like, I backed Brandt before. I'm a Brandt fan, but at the time, and seeing how the game was going, and just saw that over and over, like guys just trying to take guys on and not passing it as much. But I was like so frustrated at first until it went in. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But still, like, and that put us up 1-0 at half, but we didn't deserve that either. Like, it was just lucky that we got a goal right before halftime and luckily went ahead, but that obviously didn't help us moving forward. And then
it was tough. It was tough that we didn't really have any combinations pretty much the entire game. I think the first one that I really noticed that looked solid was like towards the 79th or something like minute, or maybe 84th or something like that, earlier in the 80th minute with Mukoko. But yeah, there wasn't really any combination of the team. So you're relying on individual brilliance. And I'm all for Brandt having a shot, though. I mean, he's someone that is not really a stranger to shooting from that range and also scoring from that range. So I'm glad you kind of have a shot at the same time too. I mean, even if it doesn't go in, if it's on target, you're creating chaos in the opponent's box, which can lead to another shot.
Yeah. And then 77th minute, we did see Guerrero. I don't even know how this one played out. It's been a while. I forget. But
it was a long shot.
Yeah, I remember the long shot. I don't remember how the ball bounced to him. Was it off a corner and then it bounced out to him? Or?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it was Bellingham. Someone passed to him on the left side. Now I'm blanking, but it was kind of not the best reactions from Bremen's. Or I think it was Pavlenka, from the keeper. I think he could have done better. it's not like it was unsavable, but it did have some venom on it, and it can be kind of, your defenders and the opponent's players can be blocking your vision too. So I don't know if he just was seeing it late or not.
Yeah, it wasn't the best shot. It was accurate and had a lot of power on it, but it's pretty much right down the middle.
Yeah.
So, but hey, it went in. We would go up 2-0, 77th minute, and then everything went downhill after that. I mean, we had about another 20 minutes, 10 plus minutes of we thought we were there. Did it feel like at the game, it was wrapped up? And do you think we just shut off, or did you get those vibes there?
I don't think it was. As the game kept going on, we weren't controlling it at all. We were just kind of smashing and grabbing goals as wherever we could. So I could get some whiffs of an equalizer coming, even before the first goal. It was just dangerous. But I'm also a person who thinks we should probably go for the jugular and get a third. I know some people were saying defend the lead, but we had opportunities to put this game to bed. I mean, for example, you had there was that combination play that I mentioned earlier that Moukoko, I'm not going to say he should have scored, but he could have scored with his combination with the Guerrero, I think it was. But he had a shot on goal, and it was just saved. And then also you have Hazard hitting the post in the 80th minute or something like that as well. So, I mean, you had opportunities to go 3-0 up, and that would have definitely probably put the game to bed. But as you become more defensively shaky in those last 10 minutes, and you're kind of losing your stability and organization, Bremen are going to punish you, and they did.
I don't remember the exact details, but it was something along the lines of the best comeback of all time, the latest 3-goal or 2-goal deficit comeback ever.
Yeah, so it's never happened in the Bundesliga, and it hasn't happened in Europe or across Europe in the last 13 years for a team to come back and score 3 against 2, score 3 goals in the last 6 minutes.
Yay. Hey, at least it took something historic to beat us, right?
Yep. That's what I told Madeline. I was like, at least you witnessed history today. Because, I mean, like right when that third goal went in, I felt everyone was throwing beers behind me, and I just dipped my head down. I couldn't believe it. So did the person next to me, and we were doing the same thing. We just put our head in our hands and just didn't move.
It's like I traveled 2,000 miles for this. God. Well, so what was your real quick? I want to know, like, post game. What'd you do after?
We walked to a restaurant. It was like 30 minutes away. So just walked in. I mean, you have fans walking all back to wherever they're coming from in the town. So you see Dortmund jerseys literally everywhere. But that's pretty much it. I just ranted for like 15 minutes on the walk back, and people around me were ranting too. And then we just kind of relaxed the rest of the night. I didn't want to think about anything else, honestly.
Yeah. I literally did not text you purposefully. Like I was just like, no, I'm not. Cause I was telling my wife, Claire, I was like I experience, it's different when I'm not used to it, but I do. It's a way different experience when I'm sitting here on my couch watching it and we have something horrendous happen. I have a lot of other things to distract me, but to be there just makes it so much hurt so much more. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so many of the fans are, the fan base as a whole is just so collective. So you feel the emotions, good or bad, in that stadium.
Yeah.
Of course, the pops whenever we score and just everyone grabbing each other. A guy behind me just kind of like grabbed my head, which I personally do not like anyone touching me in public, but that's like the one time where I was just kind of like turning around and doing it back.
All right.
But still an unforgettable experience overall. And going into this next game, I mean, there's not much I would change the lineup. Honestly, I still start Modeste. I know he's had at least he hasn't had a lot of touches, but he's had a few games now to really get himself involved, and he hasn't. But that's also on us, it's not entirely on him. So I do start him again. But if he doesn't perform well in the first hour, I bring in Moukoko. But other than that, Terzic's lineup is exactly what I would have put out. I mean, definitely starting with Ozcan.
Yeah. So we did see the lineup: Guerrero, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, Wolf, Ozcan, Bellingham, Brandt, Royce, Adeyemi back in. and then Modeste starting up top. Are you surprised to see Hummels still getting a start, or what are your thoughts with Sule, I guess, especially after that last game?
I mean, you really said it. I'm not surprised. Hummels, I thought, did actually pretty well this game. And Sule, I wouldn't start him after the 10 minutes that he had. I'd maybe ease him back in, which is what Terzic did. But I don't look at the performance from Sule and say, you know what, that's a man that I want starting next week. Yeah. I think I'm going with the experience and someone who can help organize that back line a little bit better, because Sule is not, I mean, he said himself in the press conference when he joined, he's not a vocal player. So not that that's the determining factor if he's vocal or not, but he just looked poor.
Yeah. This is going to sound probably bad coming off us just talking about Werder Bremen, but I think I said after the first and maybe second game, I think because we were talking with Stefan, so maybe after the first game, where I just feel, and I think it's just having Schlotterbeck back there, I feel so like secure with our back line, especially with Hummels and Schlotterbeck. Like I feel really, I just don't see us getting like cut open as much, and I don't know, there's just something about it seems way more solid. It's like I know what to expect from those two back there, and I don't have the worry, the same like Zagadou Akanji worry that I used to have.
I hear you, but it really also comes down to the coaching. I mean, What kind of system are we going with? So if people wanted to look at the average or just some of the differences between these two games, first, it's just a slightly different shape. I mean, look at the average positions between our last two games. So against Bremen, everyone kind of crams to one area of the field, the left side, leaving Schlotterbeck was kind of a little higher up at a position and Hummels behind him, and that's it. So it's just Schlotterbeck that is like higher up, crammed with like six other players, and you have Hummels all the way back. And if you look against Berlin, you have like a diamond on the average positions of Ozcan sitting right in front of them, of Hummels and Schlotterbeck, and they're both like together on the same line. So you have that solidity of the back three, that little pyramid in the back. And already you're setting yourself up for a lot more defensive stability, which is what I thought we saw a lot of in the Berlin game. And the second biggest thing was the Berlin Dortmund knew how to get their striker involved. And Modeste was night and day these past two games. He was incredibly disconnected against Bremen. I think he got like 12 touches total. And he played 75 minutes at least. But looking like that to being a now constant dangerous threat and dangerous target in the box. Again, night and day for Modeste against Berlin.
Yeah, and he had, which granted, this game we had a ton of shots this game overall as a team, but he had I think it was 4 in the first half, Modeste did. And as I said before, that was one of my points that I was looking out for is can we get Modeste involved? And I think a lot more of it has been on us not making the right passes or even looking for him a lot. You kind of see
much.
I mean, and we do have the players I know Mala's not playing, but Adeyemi, those guys who can get in the box and work in tight spaces and just run. And they're maybe not as much looking for getting out wide and crossing, but more cutting in and getting in those tight spaces, which is with Modeste, I think we need to be crossing it to him more. We saw that he had a couple good chances off crosses coming in. That's how he scored with that cross from Ozcan. And then there was a different one from I think Wolf who crossed it in maybe. But
it's just your striker's strength.
Yeah, it's changing up the styles. It's knowing how to work and pass to Modeste instead of just letting him float in there and not feed him with anything. So that definitely looked a lot better. And man,
yeah, I know again, our attack just looked much better because we knew how to get our striker involved, and that just makes us that much more dangerous all around. And of course, I want to go back to Ozcan because I don't want to understate his performance at all. I mean, he performed so well. He was intelligent on and off the ball. Excuse me. He isn't prone to committing stupid fouls. He doesn't look like a player that really loses his head. He's simple but smart with his passing, able to sit deeper in those half spaces and cover the back line better. Just a solid player overall, and he would have helped manage the game against Bremen a hell of a lot better than Chan. Definitely.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I was about to jump into. Was Chan he was so good. He looked so good. He's so solid, and he was able to win the ball, or whether it was intercepting pass or just winning a bunch of tackles to get the ball over. Even his passing looked pretty good too. And I think we saw how many chances do we see Bellingham have? He was
today.
very unlucky. Like he should have had a couple goals. Got very unlucky. But I think we talked about it last week. If we bring O'Shan in, someone who can sit back a little more, that gives Bellingham the option to go up a little more because we have that security with O'Shan. I think that's exactly what we saw. So it gives us the stability in the back, and then Bellingham the ability to go up a little more and be this secondary attacker to fall into the box.
Completely agree. It's well said. I think Bellingham has also said in the preseason that he's been working on developing more as a box-to-box midfielder that can get in those advanced positions and actually go and shoot and score some goals, which, I mean, even before this season, you could look at countless examples of him being that dangerous attacking midfielder at times. But yeah, I'm glad that he still has some work to do, clearly. I mean, he could have put some away to get today, but still looked decent overall.
What were your thoughts on Adeyemi back in today? Coming off his injury?
I mean, that's just it. He's coming off an injury, so he didn't look too much into the pace of things, but it's just going to take time for him. And also, again, he's still at a brand new club, and I think this is his second game with us, at least in the league. So still adjusting to the league and everything. He's got lightning pace, and he would have been another player that would have also helped a lot against Werder Bremen if a player like Jamie bynoe-gittens just wasn't performing well against Bremen, in my opinion. He was really predictable and kept giving the ball away. I think another great option on the wing last week would have been Adeyemi had he been healthy. But
I really like what I know. He's had some chances, and he's had some like pretty horrendous shots off some pretty like open chances to score. So his finishing isn't quite there, but a big part of it is his pace and his speed. But I really like what he sees, and I think anyone who thought maybe this would be too big of a jump going from Salzburg up to the Bundesliga, I think he's right. Like I think he should be a starter. He's just got to work on that finishing. But every time he plays, I love it. Like I love seeing what he's gonna do. And I think it's just a matter of time till he finally like bangs one in and just needs to clean up that finishing a little bit. But I was excited to see him back in the lineup. He did like slip a couple times. There's one, okay, I got to say, because I saw a tweet about Meunier having that shot towards the end that just went way out wide. Someone's like, Meunier's shot looked like he was just switching the pitch, and it was terrible. But I was like, if you go back to the first half, Adeyemi had that shot where basically did the same thing, but he also like slipped and fell at the same time. It's like that was definitely the worst.
Yeah, a few players in general, like on Berlin too, were slipping. I don't know if they overwatered the pitch a little bit before the game, but yeah, Meunier's shot was horrendous though. That was one of the worst shots I've seen, at least for us in a long time.
What are your thoughts on, I know we talked about it a bit last week, but Wolf versus Meunier on that right back?
Yeah, that's another thing that we kind of got slapped in the face for predicting, didn't we? Thinking Wolf should, which I still think he should. I genuinely do think just because you have one bad game doesn't mean that's end all be all for you on the bench. But Wolf looked a little bit better today. And I mean, it still depends, I guess, on what is going to happen with Meunier. It's interesting that Meunier himself has called like these reports about him potentially leaving propaganda, and Terzic, I think, even came out and said that too. But at the same time, it looks like some of these may be a little bit more truth than what most people are seeing. Maybe it's just like a face that the player and the club are putting on, but who knows? I was almost feeling like him not starting plays into it more, that maybe they are planning for a potential departure. Because I don't know. I'm still along the lines with like, I don't know why Meunier is not starting. Because we're 3 games in, 3 or 4. 3 is this 3? 4. So I just don't see, like, it's not like he's had a run of games where like he played terribly for 5 games. So okay, let's bench him. Like it was a pretty quick, let's let Wolf start. And so that's what makes me think maybe they are like planning for him to go out. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either, but I do like, or have been liking what I've been seeing of Wolf. I mean, not just to look at that Bremen game, but I think he's got a lot of different good qualities to kind of give him the go for starting, at least for a little bit longer, and see what we're looking at as the team continues to gel this fall.
Yeah. I mean, Wolf did get that banger a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, any other player specifics you want to point out?
Besides Kobel again. I mean, I know I mentioned for the Bremen game, but same thing here against Berlin. It's every single game. He's unreal.
3 minutes in, saved us 3 minutes in, then saved a late one, I think in the 70th, 80th.
He's already miles ahead of Berkey, man. And I'm really not saying that because like Berkey is just like a bad keeper, but he's just that much better than Berkey. And he's only been here like not even a fraction of the time that Berkey's been here either. And the thing is too, Kobel's he's so young and he's going to get so much better too.
Yeah. I touched on it earlier, but Schlotterbeck, and I just feel so secure with Schlotterbeck. During the game, I put out a tweet and I was like, man, isn't it nice just like knowing Schlotterbeck's going to be back there and save it? Like he's always coming in with a big slide tackle or something to save it. And right after I tweeted that, I was like, oh, I really hope I didn't jinx anything and he's going to like mess up and let a goal in or something. But man, I just love him. He's so solid back there. And it's early for him too, so he's going to keep getting better, especially if we get something established. If Sule can work him back into the lineup and they start working on that partnership, or if it is Hummels. I've liked what I've been seeing from Hummels too. So either or, I like.
That's like the one thing about Schlotterbeck is he is a risk taker, and with those tackles, I mean he's always diving in and everything. But I mean for the most part, he's very intelligent still, even though he takes those risks.
They never look. I mean they look. I think in the play of the game they look nuts. Like they look wild and a bit out of control. But like when you see the replay, it's like he knows exactly what he's doing. He always gets the ball. It's always clean. Yeah.
All
right. Anything else from this game? Schlotterbeck, Guerrero, Hummels, Ozcan. We just need to see Ozcan next game. Again, he's proven himself, so hopefully he can stay in that starting lineup for next time. And
at least Terzic has learned from the Bremen game. That's what the biggest thing for me was, is he going to actually take everything that he saw and witnessed into consideration? And it looks like he did. It looks like he actually has a game plan of how to get Modeste involved, which is the only reason we got him, is to have someone like that in the box. And if you're not going to be able to feed him those crosses, then he's not going to score goals for you. But so, yeah, our attack looked better. And I think going forward, we know who to go with whenever Dahoud is out, the partnership next to Bellingham. Cool.
And then, so we are going to talk Champions League. Like I said, that'll be out in a couple days, so be looking for that. Sorry again for the delay of this episode and delay after our Werder Bremen game. But we will be back very soon, so we appreciate you listening. You can always follow us on Twitter and Instagram at thebvbpod. You can email us, thebvbpod@gmail.com, or head to our website, thebvbpodcast.com. So, and hey, we've been getting a lot more reviews, whether it's Spotify or Apple. So we really appreciate that. If you want to send us a nice note, that'd be great wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you don't want to send us, if you don't have a nice note to send us, you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter, and then we'll talk it out. But I think that's it for this episode and recapping Berlin and Werder Bremen. And then we will be back in a couple days to talk Champions League. Thanks.
See ya.